Hey friend, in this video, I'm going to show you my go-to EQ points for mixing acoustic guitar in a worship recording. But if you're wondering about how to mix it maybe in like a live situation, these principles stay pretty much the same. You may just need to adjust it a little bit pertaining to the room and your speakers and the acoustic and stuff. But we're going to go through two different acoustics, one that was overdubbed or done in a studio type setting, and then the second one done as a straight DI from a live recording from a live worship night. And honestly, the acoustic player wasn't really on that night. And so I kind of show you how you can still utilize the performance if you can't overdub, and if you don't want to sit down and like edit a bunch of stuff. So we'll dive into that real quick. But first, if you guys want some of these EQ mixing points, just as you know, like on your computer, ready to go, I have a free mixing cheat sheet down below. And not only does it have the acoustic, it has all of the instruments that you would normally mix for a live worship recording, and it also gives you some cool compression tips as well. Just a good starting point for if you kind of just don't know where to start, like you open up a session, it's blank, and you're like, oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. It's a great way to at least just get started, start moving stuff around in the EQ. So let's dive in. All right, so this we're gonna do the studio one first. So just to give you guys a listen. This is the acoustic, and what he did was he double tracked the acoustic, or sorry, he dual mic'd the acoustic. So you guys can see we have if you guys look closely, you can see the acoustic guitar whole, acoustic guitar fret. This I always tell people to do this. Either you double track it or you use two mics to get that stereo effect. Now I've shown you guys in the past how you guys can use BX Stereo Maker to create that stereo effect. But if you guys have the opportunity to double mic it or double track it, always do that. It's always going to sound better. So this is the acoustic with no processing on it. And then let's dive into this bigger part where it's really kind of digging in. So it's already sounding super clean. And in all honesty, it already sounds pretty good in the actual mix itself. Let me turn this off. And so now let's just give it a listen in that same part, just with no processing. So already sounding good, already adding a nice texture to the mix. And that's how I think of most acoustic, is like it's just a nice texture to add to the mix. So first things first is what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to EQ these together. So I have these both bussed to a acoustic bus here, and then we have the F6 on there as a stereo version of the plugin. So that we're going to get rid of some of this low end. So first step is just get rid of the low end that we don't need. Acoustics really don't need a lot, like that low end never needs it. So we're going to high pass probably up to like 200 or so. So let's just give that a listen. So bypass. So already, I mean, we definitely took out some of that body, but here's the thing is whenever you're in a dense mix like this, you're going to probably want to take out a lot of that low end because there's so many other instruments that are fighting for that area. The lower end of the guitars, bass guitar, kick, toms, all that stuff. So we want to leave room for that. And in all honesty, you won't really notice it. It's just going to kind of muddy up your mix if you keep a lot of that low end in there. But what your mix does need is usually somewhere in this 300 to 500 range is usually what I see a lot of mixes lacking. especially early on. This I would literally cut here on everything because I thought it was terrible. But on like synths or acoustic or something like that, we're gonna find out that that's actually a really nice warm tone that adds like a nice depth to your mix. And it's not even about really making it noticeable, it's about making it like felt in the mix. So let's give this a listen as I boost there. Take that out. And so I don't know if you guys can hear that, if you guys are using good headphones, but what it makes it sound like to me when I boost that is it makes me sound like I'm in almost like in a living room with people about to worship. Like it has like that warm tone to it. That's the best way I can explain it. Maybe I'm explaining it poorly. That's okay. Next is I will cut pretty hard around this 1K area, which to me always just sounds honky and acoustic. I don't know. I feel like it makes room for the vocal to shine through, and it doesn't. It kind of keeps the acoustic from cutting out of the mix because a lot of the times we just want the acoustic to fill the space that the acoustic or that the electrics aren't filling. So let's give this a listen. Not a ton, like 3 dB there. And then there's also sometimes a cut around 4K that I don't like, so we're going to leave it a listen. I don't know if we'll need it on this one. No, I think it's fine. And then one thing that I do a lot of the time on acoustic, especially when it's overdubbed like this and you have a ton of high end coming through, is I'll use a low pass filter and just come down to like 12K or something. Nothing crazy, but I just, some of that shimmery stuff like way up here in the 16 to 20, honestly, most of the time is just really ear piercing, and it takes away from any shine of the vocal that comes through on that end, any of the cymbal or the percussion or the synth stuff that we have up there. It kind of just takes away from that and adds like you just hear a lot of like pick noise. And I don't care for it. So we'll just do that. This is probably not gonna be super noticeable, but we'll A/B it real quick. Cool. So now let's give it a listen in the mix and see. Let's just A/B what we've done and see how we like it. So we'll go to this big chorus here, and so we'll start with it off. So in context, whenever I take the EQ off, it's actually popping out of the mix more. And so maybe you're thinking, oh, that's great. Me, I don't want that. I don't want the acoustic. The acoustic is not the main instrument here. The big instruments that are happening right here are the synths and the guitars. And so I want those popping out, and I want the acoustic to fill in this like low mid spot here in the mix to make it warm and to bring like almost like the girth of the mix. That's a terrible word to use, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like I don't want the acoustic does not need to be necessarily heard, but more so felt in this context. Now, if you're doing some type of like solo acoustic mix, or maybe the acoustic has like a very definitive part, then you'll want to actually change this and maybe add some high end, maybe automate some EQ so that it pops out in that part and then gets pulled back. But in the context of a studio mix, this is all I would do. So just to recap, we're pulling out the low lows and high passing up to like 200 hertz. We're doing a boost at like a 313 and just getting the warmth of the acoustic. We're pulling out a little bit of 1.1 to get rid of any honkiness that the acoustic has and to make a little bit of room for the vocal power that sits right there. And then we are putting in a low pass filter on the top down to 12K just to get any of that really, really top end out. Now this may change. You may get a very dark acoustic and you need to add top end. Do what you need to do to get the acoustic to sit right in the mix. But this is a general go-to for me, is the warmth and the cut on 1K. So Now let's switch over to a DI'd acoustic. And so a kind of, you guys just got super spoiled with the with the a studio acoustic. Wow, I just blanked there. And so now this is the DI acoustic, and I've already done some of the EQ here, so we'll just walk through it, but I'm going to bypass it. So this is what the acoustic sounds like DI'd. So you guys can hear it's not the best performance, not the best acoustic sound, not the worst I've ever had, but not the best. And it's very live. Like this is a live mix. There's no overdubs on this mix at all. So let me put that in the context for you guys. So it's a little messy, right? Like there's just a lot, so much going on. And so first things first is, obviously it's just an acoustic DI. So first things first is I put on the BX Stereo Maker plugin, and this basically turns it into a stereo acoustic. So just to A/B that, this is before just a mono acoustic. And then putting this plugin on turns it into this wide stereo acoustic. And you use this stereo expansion plugin as much as you want. I usually sit in the 100 to 150 range. So this is at 134 right now on acoustic. And then if I want more width, sometimes this plugin gets a little artifacty if you really push it hard. And so you can use another plugin like Isotope Imager or something like that just to add some more. Or I'm actually going to show you a really cool plugin I just started using that has really helped some of this DI acoustic stuff. So now let's just dive into the EQ. So very similar to what we did last time. You guys can see. So we got a high pass filter come up to 200, literally the exact same. And then we are doing a bump at, looks like 382, 392, a little bit higher, but that just depends on the acoustic. And then we're doing a slight cut at 791, another cut at 2.7, and then we're doing a boost at 7.7 to add some more top end, because I don't know if you guys are noticing, but with this DI'd acoustic, it's lacking some top end, but we're still cutting that shimmery stuff. Like we're coming all the way down to 10K on this one. So let's just do a bypass here. And then on. And I know you guys are probably thinking, I think that sounds worse. But in the context of the mix, I think it sounds better. So we're going to bypass. We'll start it off with bypass. And I'm going to mute the vocals just so we can kind of hear it in the mix a little bit better. So let's go back to this acoustic. Now on. Off. So that's a big lesson there, because you can mix in solo all day, and then this will be like, wow, I think what you did was terrible. But then in the mix, it kind of filled some gaps. Now it was a little bit too loud when I first turned it on, and so that's kind of my fault. I think there's some automation on here, but and then I just want to show you guys one last plugin to really help your DI'd acoustic. So there's a ton of plugins that can do like impulse responses, all sorts of stuff. And, you can use like a reverb to throw on it. That's what I've done in the past, is I've often used a reverb. But I just got this new plugin not too long ago called the Panda Rooms. I think it's by Purified Audio. And basically it's an emulation of, a bunch of rooms. So if you look here, you've got, multiple like recording studio rooms, hallways, kitchen, bedroom, lots of stuff. And so I found this preset on here called Intimate Room. I can't remember which one it was in. I think it's this one, Intimate Room. And it just sounds like the acoustic was almost mic'd up. And so let's just throw this on so you guys can hear it. Bypass. So I think it sounds awesome. Now, obviously, we need to blend it. So there's a dry wet knob here. And here's the thing. Here's what's really cool about this plugin. Maybe I should do a deep dive into this plugin because this works as like a drum room thing as well. But you basically get different mics here that you can play with. But for just this instance, we're going to leave it how it is. And then I'm just going to dial in this Panda, the actual dry wet. So let's just pull back here. So that's probably where I'd sit with it, right at 48%. So somewhere about 50%. It's just gonna help make that acoustic not sound so DIE. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other plugins you can use, some other impulse responses and stuff like that. But this just really, for me, it helps it sit back in the mix. And I think I'm gonna pull the output down just a little bit. And now let's give it a listen, bypassed and in the mix. So here it is, bypassed. So in my opinion, it just kind of like sunk into the mix a little bit. And it helped that I pulled the output down because it was a little loud. But it really just kind of pulled it back in, almost kind of put it in the room with everything. Because even, with the room mics, which I can show you guys, where are they? Even with the room mics, like you're not really hearing the acoustic. So like it's like you can't add more room mic. You can't utilize the room mics with the acoustic because the acoustic's really not going to be up in the mix. And I was running front of house for this, so know that I wasn't really pumping the acoustic on this. So you really can't depend on that a lot of the time. So you almost have to recreate it if you can't overdub. But if you can overdub, please overdub. It's going to sound so much better. Acoustic overdub is so much better. So hope that helps you guys. Hope that gives you a good starting point on EQ for your acoustic guitar, whether it's DI or whether you're able to mic it up in the studio and overdub it later. Again, mixing cheat sheet down below, absolutely free. Next video coming out in a few days is going to be on electric guitars, so be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you then.